So, Mike, Jolie, Alicia, we're here to talk about an author who we have already read a work of. We're talking about The House, and this is a work by Paco Roca, who we last visited with his graphic novel Wrinkles. I'm kind of excited about this because I was very moved by Wrinkles, and I thought the art style and the writing style was exceptional. I was a big fan of it. And I'm kind of hoping to reintroduce previous artists or writers that we discussed in previous sessions for this year of the Graphic Novel Club. But just to get started, just going to throw it out there. So let's start with Alicia. What were your thoughts on The House?
I really liked it. It was a little confusing in some places because it didn't feel like it had the same progression or sequencing of what you would be reading. So I was reading some things out of order, and it took me a few tries with certain pages to read things in the correct order. But once I got the hang of it, we were good. I enjoyed it. I really liked it. It felt like it was really true to how it feels when you're kind of cleaning up after somebody's passed away.
Mm-hmm.
Loved the the art also. Loved the art. I loved the way he used color to indicate the past versus the present, and I think the future as well in a couple panels. I can't remember, but yeah. So I loved it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. Going on, Jolie, what were your thoughts on The House?
It made me so sad. It was so good. I had the same issues with readability as Alicia did, but I think that all of our impressions are like the exact same. That like it brought up memories of not like just cleaning up after people, but like, well, I mean that, and oh god, just like siblings, like having to deal with siblings when big life events happen, and the different personalities that you have to contend with. And yeah, and that's why I loved it. Like it made me furious, it made me sad, but it also made me nostalgic, and it made me miss my brothers and sisters.
Was there a particular sibling that you tended to empathize with more than any of the others?
I am the artist brother. That is me. But I'm a little more responsible. Like I don't forget things. I like to keep to a schedule, so I am an artist, but I am the older brother. Like I get angry when people are not on it, because if I am on it, I expect everybody else to be. So yeah.
What about the sister? Did you feel any sort of kinship with her?
No, she seems like all my other, she seems like most two of my in-laws, that they're just kind of like peripheral people. And I have never seen somebody like as a sibling be like that disconnected. I guess because none of my siblings are, so yeah.
Okay, interesting. Thanks, Jolie. And then before we get into more in-depth questions, Mike, I'd love to hear.
Well, get me out of the way, yeah.
Yeah, we'll just brush you away. No, but what were your thoughts on The House? I'm very curious to hear.
A real review. No, well, unfortunately, I haven't finished the book. I'm only on page 54. So,
what?
Yeah.
Allow me to spoil it for you.
Well, you guys are going to spoil it either way. That's fine. But
so their father dies.
I know that. But as with Wrinkles, I think I was more underwhelmed than everyone else. I don't know. I'm a little bit. I think I'm a little bit a little bit sick of autobiographical comics, because so many graphic novels seem to be autobiographical, which I'm assuming it's autobiographical. I don't know. And the one character I want to talk about is his wife. What's his name? Her name again?
Oh, whose wife?
Am I reading the right book here?
Reading The House by Paco Roca?
Yeah.
Because it starts with, if you're so early in the book, as we were talking about, there's actually three siblings that come to the house. So you're probably on the first sibling,
Yes.
The brother who's an artist. He has a
Yes.
beard. Yes. Okay, so
So-
yes, I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's Jose.
Jose.
think.
So his wife, what's her name? I'll find out right now. Whatever her name is.
There is a thing with a family tree. Jose Carla. Oh no, wait. Jose Carla and Vincente are the brothers and sisters. It doesn't show who they're married to. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Well, that's the thing is this is halfway through the book and almost halfway, and these are this is like the main character and his wife. So I didn't realize there was more coming, but I don't know. I just found her to be almost, I don't want to say manic pixie dream girlish, but a different type of superficial stereotype where the things she says and the way she reacts to him is very superficial, and it's hard to explain what I mean. But when she says like, "Oh, artsy fartsy syndrome," and "Oh, you writers are so quirky," like just lines like that, it just seems, I don't know, it's just too indie film to me, of like the indie filmmaker who makes a movie about himself and he positions himself to be kind of exactly what this guy is, but so far, now I haven't read the whole thing, but he just sort of, I don't know, the interactions he has with her and with other people are just really, like even when he's like fiddling around with the hose, and it's like a little bit funny but not really funny, and it's a little bit of an obstacle but not much of an obstacle. Oh, Sylvia? Okay. So I don't know, I just, so far I just find it a little bit too, I don't know what the word is, maybe a little bit too precious, I don't know. You know?
Yeah, well, he definitely wrote it. Like,
Yeah.
it's him writing it.
Right.
Okay, no, that's interesting. Well, let's examine this a little bit, because I am kind of curious to hear your thoughts on some of the themes of the book. Being, like you said, Mike, you felt it was a little bit too precious. It maybe used too many of those indie tropes. I'm kind of curious, what do you think would have made it a bit, what would have got it away from the trenches of those cliches?
I don't know. It's like really hard to define what I mean, but it's I don't want to sound like a pretentious artsy fartsy person, but I'm working on this theory that I've just thought of in my head, and I noticed it from watching what's that movie, the TV show about the girl playing chess, Queen's Gambit. I noticed that for all of the rave reviews it got, I found it very...
Oh, Queen's Gambit.
Yeah, Queen's Gambit. I found it far too neat and tidy and organized. Like, even though she had a little bit of struggle and a little bit of tragedy and a little bit of the drug use and the alcohol, everything was very neat and tidy, and it's almost like everything she said and every obstacle she hit was a minor obstacle that she easily overcame. And I felt like that's what was happening in this book, where everything is very low stakes, middle of the road drama. And that's fine, because a lot of, I mean, when you're doing an autobiography, which I assume this is, I mean, most people's lives are pretty boring and mundane, including mine. So but I just, it's almost like, and I'd like to see more unpredictability with his interactions with characters, including his wife, including the neighbor, you know? But again, I've only gotten to just under the halfway mark, so I don't know what the rest of it is like.
Well, this is going to be interesting, because I guess we're going to be talking about it a little bit. And I don't know if maybe by the end of the conversation, it will just cement these issues you have, or maybe you might be intrigued to finish it. Because, some of the themes in the book that I was really intrigued by was the idea of family itself. And this fits in along with the film club when we were talking about shoplifters, what defines a family. This family is very fractured, and I think there's a reason why initially we see the siblings come to the house separately. I know Jolie already talked a little bit about the brothers. Alicia, what do you think the siblings represented? Did they represent certain personality types? What would you describe their personalities even to be? Also, Alicia, I think your microphone's off.
Thanks. Gee, well, I mean, definitely the first guy. I am so bad with names. Wait, let me go back to the family tree so I can reference the names. Okay. So definitely Jose. Yeah, he was kind of the artsy guy, dropping the ball. He had more abstract ideas, and he was a little more rooted in fantasy and what's the word? Nostalgia. He was a little more rooted in nostalgia and that sort of thing. Vincente? I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. He was a lot more of the practical kind type where he was like, we're going to fix this and where's that paint? And oh my God, he's going to forget the paint, you know? And then Carla, I'm not remembering her character so clearly. I don't remember if she fell sort of between the two of them personality wise. I think what Jolie said of her just being there is kind of accurate because I read this over the weekend and I don't remember much about her character other than she had a daughter and her husband was really funny. I liked her husband. So as far as what they represent, so Jose representing kind of nostalgia and how, sorry, Mike, spoiler, how he was looking back at what's one good memory because the neighbor told him, oh, this was that one happy memory that your dad always had of the family sitting under the pergola enjoying a meal. And so he went to get the wood for this. And I think he was the first one to say, what if we keep the house? And then Carla and Vincent kind of, oh, we could do it. And yeah, I think what it is, what the siblings are meant to represent is that back and forth between how you want things to be and in an idealistic world, how they would be. And even kind of that, again, that reminiscence, I just used the word nostalgia and how it'd be great to hang on to that stuff because of that. But then like Vincent, there's the practicality of, well, how would we pay the bills? How would we work this? How would we, like look after it? We'd have to come down every year. And when he looked at his son, once you grow up and go off with your friends, you're not going to want to come here as often. And it just reminded me of my own situation right now with this house. And I want to keep it because of nostalgia, because there's a lot of memories there, but it's just not practical for me right now. So I think that's why this book really resonated with me personally. And one of the things at the end that really got to me was when the neighbor dug up the fig tree and brought it home. And that part, I lost it. I started crying. I was like, no, because I think he represents the middle ground of we can't have it all, but we can still take a piece of this nostalgia and bring it with us into our present. And it won't be completely practical, but it also won't be completely impractical. I'm not sure if any of what I just said made sense, but people were nodding, so I'm sure it did.
No, thank you, Alicia. That actually, I think that coheres a lot with thoughts I had about the book. I'm actually curious, Jolie, I know you talked about the siblings a bit already, but going off of Alicia's thoughts, do you think they represent anything in particular in terms of character types? And how would you describe their dynamics?
I feel like I'm being quizzed. Like I have to write a 6-page essay on these like character types.
I'm sorry, my inner English teacher is coming out. I don't know why.
You're just moonlighting at the library. I was thinking more about the sister character and how she's just like, she reminded me of how because the three of them all had relationships with their father, but she had a different relationship, but they all remember him differently. And she had a different relationship with him where she was like, well, I took him to the hospital. Like I was part of his I see that little face back there. I was part of his hospital visits, and like you guys didn't do that. And how dare you pull the plug on him without, calling me, like, and making sure I was there. And I think the three of them together, I would consider like representative of like the main. It's because I want to talk about that neighbor. They're not even like the full story. They're kind of, they move the story along, but to me, when someone dies, and this is what I'm afraid of, it's always about the people that no one knew that the dead had a relationship with. I don't know. I don't know what, I honestly, I'm not totally sure about this one. It's hard because it's like Alicia said, it's like we have the person who comes in and is the glue, which is the artist, the aloof, he's always working out of town brother. We have the person who should be holding them together, but is really just bitching about everyone not working together. And that's the practical one. And he's the scheduler. And he's just like the consistent one. He's always there. He was always fixing, because in his mind, he's in all of their minds, they're all there. But in his mind, he was always there. And then in the daughter's mind, Carla, she was always there, but that's because she was at the hospital. They all kind of played small parts in their father's life. And then we have the neighbor who, the caretaking of the home was passed on to the neighbor after the kids totally forgot about it. And even the kids don't even acknowledge the neighbor. He just kind of, they sort of do. Jose meets him, but he meets him in a way that's like, like an instructional kind of way. Like, oh, he's the neighbor that told me where the garbage cans were out back. And that's it. They don't invite him to eat because they don't know him. But this man is like intimately familiar with that home and their father, and he doesn't even know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna mute now.
Okay, our fourth member just walked away. Now, with that said, I do agree
She didn't
with
read the book.
Oh, well, she doesn't count then. She's below Mike right now. Okay, but seriously, that point that you made, I think that resonates a lot with me, because I'm not sure if you got to the point where the son talked to the neighbor yet, Mike. Did you experience that in the book so far?
You mean the older man who?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, talking about the fig tree and mentioning the one good memory you had as a kid. I did read that. Yeah.
Okay. Now, he recurs throughout the graphic novel, and there's some points where they even have memories of the father and the neighbor interacting, and
Right.
It seems like the father's guard is down around the neighbor. It's kind of like his buddy, his chum, where he can kind of divulge about how tired he is, how frustrated he is with things in a way that he doesn't divulge to his own children.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of parents probably can relate to that. I think there's this feeling where you need to protect your child from the reality of your world, especially when you're undergoing stuff like stress or trauma due to medical issues. And so for me, I think while not one particular child seemed to have known the father better than another one, they knew aspects of him. And I think the neighbor, as Jolie was talking about, this book indicates there is another aspect that even the family could never really learn about the father. And that was, again, through this intimate relation he had with the neighbor, his friend. I think this says a lot about those types of dynamics. And without bludgeoning us over the head, it kind of says, as much as we can know our family, there's some things that we just don't know. And I thought that was pretty effective in the book. I think as it goes on and you're introduced to the other siblings, there's more points like that that come to light. And I think it really starts extrapolating that theme. But another cool thing I like is the interactions between the parents. So let me put it this way, the siblings as parents with their children. Because the initial couple that you're introduced to, they don't have children.
Mm-hmm.
But then Vincente, he comes in with his son. And Jolie, you probably are so aware of this. You probably recall this moving scene where he had to repair a toilet and he told his son, what? Why didn't you go beforehand? I just had to now. He throws him some toilet paper and basically says, take a shit out in the field.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, how do I know about this?
Oh, you just were nodding. I thought you were like resonating with that.
Oh, no, I'm resonating in the way that I read it in the book. Yeah.
Well, not interpersonal experience with that, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, and his son's a bit older, right? We're supposed to be, we're meant to read him as a little bit older, probably like 13.
Yeah, I'd say
Would you
13,
say?
14. Yeah.
Yeah, and then Carla, her son is like a toddler, a speaking toddler, but like, you know, he's picking up oranges off the ground and she still has to hold his hand and stuff, so he's quite small. But yeah, and like, which is really weird to me, why they wouldn't want to keep the house. Like, they seem to, once they get together, once the siblings all get together, they have fun. And they all recognize that they find joy in the house. So when they're all like, let's keep it, and the sister's like, nah, still I need the money. I was like, oh, she's my older sister. It's like, why don't you just move in? Anyway, sorry, it's getting too close to home.
But with that said, I think you were kind of mentioning the sister felt like she was just there. And Mike, as you go on to the graphic novel throughout the course of it, you'll probably feel something similar.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I felt about the sister was that she didn't really have a lot of room to develop, mainly because she was a caregiver. Vincente, who's the second sibling introduced in the book, he's kind of like the do everything handyman. He's repairing things. Like Jolie said, he's the scheduler. But Carla is the one that's taking her father to the hospital. She's the one that's kind of overseeing his immediate medical needs. And I think this is a reality that happens, especially for a lot of women. I'm not sure if you agree with me or not, but oftentimes the role of caregiver is often just kind of foisted on to female members of the family as if it's an expectation. And I wonder if this was intentional on Paco's part, if it was that he wasn't necessarily giving her that much character because he knew in these cases she was playing a role, and unfortunately a role that was foisted onto her. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
I wonder too, even if the novel had been a little bit longer, if he could have developed her character a little bit better, or maybe it even has something to do with if it is autobiographical, which I suspect it might be, as many have said already. Maybe he barely knows his own sister because she's in that caretaker role so much that he barely knows her. Yeah.
Well, usually people who are trying to dodge that kind of responsibility tend to just like let that happen. So it's like she was always going to the hospital with her dad, and Jose was just staying as far away as possible from that part of the family. Because if you look at it, he's like, he goes with his wife, they buy a bunch of food, and they go the night before, and his intent was, we're going to have a good time. And they do. And then they leave. And then they're late coming to meet his brothers and sisters the next day because he is only thinking of things that'll make everybody happy. So he's went and got the pergola. Like, he's picking up a pergola, forgetting to pick up paint and having to go get paint. He's like, quote, out doing the fun stuff while everybody is like busting their ass at the house. which I can relate to. So yeah, it's like, I mean, he's even the one that cooks for all of them, him and Sylvia. So it's like, I don't know, that's how I kind of see him. And even in my own family, the role of caretaker does go to females. I don't know if it's a generational immigrant thing, or if it's like, or if it's just all humans. I feel like it's all humans, like the girls. If like, I mean, for the most part, we're offered the chance to take care of our ailing parents, but they're okay if we said no. But yeah, I feel like that's definitely correct. Maybe that's why she took it so hard when her brother didn't call her, because she's like, I was busy taking care of him, and then you decide to pull the plug on him, and I was a block away. And you could have just been like, you could have waited. But then she goes on to say something, and this is how she reminds me of some of my family. It's like, then she goes on to say something or validate those thoughts with something super selfish, like, I really wish, like, my son could have been old enough to have good memories. It's like, what kind of life would he have had? But you want him to have good memories with a vegetable, probably? Like, think of somebody else for once.
There wasn't really much conflict in its own way in this novel. Really, the only conflict I think that happened was the siblings just not agreeing with each other and the type of disconnect that happened in their family. In terms of a climax to the story, it probably was when there was that resolution between the siblings. They met, they talked, and then they had that dinner together. Mike, you mentioned it felt kind of slow paced, that there wasn't really many plot points happening. And I agree. It seemed more like a series of instances rather than a linear narrative. But, I will say, having read the whole book, and I would encourage you to finish it at one point, I think in the end, all those moments really add up. And I think it does reveal a very good experience. I will admit, when I first started reading it, I probably had some similar thoughts that you had. I wasn't quite committed to it. By the time I got to Vincente, the second brother, and then continued on, I think the themes that were underlying it became a lot stronger, and it became a much stronger book overall.
I'd like to compare it a little bit to Fun Home by Alison Bechtel.
Yes.
Is Alison her first name?
Bechtel, yeah.
Bechtel, thank you. Because it's described as a tragic comedy. And this book, in the sense of comedy versus tragedy, comedy being the unification of a community by the end of the book, there is that unification in that dinner. But I would argue, too, that there's a disunification in that for sale sign. So there's an implication that it is a comedy because they come together and they have a meal and they share a meal together as a family. But then in the end, they decide to sell and they let go of that unity. So I would argue a little bit for that, to make a case for this as a genre for this book.
Well, interesting. Well, unfortunately, Mike, you're not going to be able to have too much input on this question. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
There's going to be some that you can, don't worry. But maybe, Jolie, what do you weigh in on that? Do you think the book could be considered a tragedy, a comedy? How would you identify the book?
Okay. Yikes. I related it more to dramas that I've seen.
Okay.
That have like funny characters, or like characters who just tell like, dad jokes, or like the shirtless uncle. So to me, it's not really a tragic comedy. To me, it's just like a situational drama.
Okay.
That's how I related to what is that Adam Driver movie where they like it just takes place in their living room and they're like sitting Shiva. and that's the only thing that happens for like 7 days. It's these siblings who hate each other, but their dad died, so they all have to like sit shiva with each other,
Oh,
and it's the movie is just those 7 days, and like this is what it reminded me of. It's like, great, okay, sure, we don't get along very well, but we have to. This is where I leave you. This is where it's called. This is where I leave you. By the way,
okay.
really good film. Thanks, Julie. That's what it reminded me of, and that's like I see this playing out more like a film than a graphic novel. That makes sense.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, aside from the flashbacks.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me, actually. Um, let's talk about how it is unique as a graphic novel. I want to talk about the art style a little bit. So before I ask any more specific questions, what was your general impression on the art style?
I can say something about this, right?
Yes, you can.
Okay. No, because I actually did really like it. Usually, like I don't like art that's a little bit like as sketchy as this, but thinking of it more as like a comic strip, it's like very simplistic and it gets the point across. It tells the story, and so I do think that the art was good. It did exactly what it needed to do, so I did enjoy it.
Okay. So if you could compare it to art from another book or a particular artist, would you be able to do that?
Yeah, there are a lot of current. What's his name? There's a guy at Marvel. He's Hispanic. This guy's Spanish, but it might be Marcos Martin or one of those guys that was working on Daredevil about 5 years ago. But a very clear storyteller. And again, I prefer a little bit finer detail. But when you're doing a story like this, I don't think it's necessary. I think it's better to be a little bit more impressionistic. And so I think that it matches exactly what the story needs. So I thought it was fine.
Okay, thanks, Mike. So any other thoughts on the art?
That thing that Alicia was talking about, where it was hard to read because of the panel layout. Like he would do, I'm looking at page 12 right now, if you need reference. The first instance where I can see it. So it's like the first 3 panels in succession. But
Which page?
So I'm on page 12. I'm just using page 12 as an example, where they're in the bathroom and the tank is overflown.
That one I noticed too, yep.
You read 1, 2, 3, and then you're like, okay, do I go to the next set of panels underneath it, or do I go to the toilet and then go down and then go back? And that annoys me.
Can I say...
What?
Oh, no, go ahead. Finish your thought, but I want to add to that.
Sure. No, it's okay. I really don't have anything else to say. I mean, other than logic dictates you go to the... Like, this is based on how you're supposed to read comics. It would be the first 3, then the next 3, and then the toilet, and then down.
See, that's the thing is, I was wondering if it was intentional or, for lack of a better word, incompetent, but I'm hoping it was intentional because it made me think that maybe it's almost like a different way to read a comic, where instead of going 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, it's almost like you have to look at them at the same time and realize that this toilet dripping is happening throughout the entire scene. And it's if it's intentional, it's incredible because it creates a different way to read it. And it's not just like, I mean, Grant Morrison and Frank Quitely do this where they'll tell a story where if you go 1, 2, 3, 4, it tells one story. You can go top to bottom, it tells another. And that's one thing, but this is different. This is more like it's completely nonlinear, right? It's almost like this one's happening off to the side, literally off to the side, and it's almost like if you're watching a movie and there's something happening here, but there's something else happening here, but it's happening at the same time. I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, and actually, Mike, I'm going to agree with you on this. I would be inclined to say it is intentional,
right?
Only because the whole story is anachronistic. It goes back and forth in time. So it makes sense to also go back and forth in space through these images. So I would say it's more like a mosaic than a sequential series of panels. It doesn't happen too frequently, but when it does, it's very noticeable.
Right.
Jolie, you're saying, yeah.
Oh, I was going to say, so if you go further along to page 16, it's another instance of, I see what you guys are saying. And yes, if it is intentional, which I think that it is, because this guy, just the way that he writes, I don't think that it isn't. But page 16 is sort of a mess. But again, if it's intentional, it's genius.
Wait, it's 16. It's like, it seems like we're off by one page. Do you mean where they're at the sink or the one after that? Where they have the sword and it's all green?
That one, the latter.
Okay. Oh, I see. It's digital 17, but original 16. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, so it's like a mixture. Again, it's a mixture of like the blue scenes are flashbacks or memories, and then it cuts to the green swords, and it's like that's where they are, and then it cuts to another. You know what I mean? Like it cuts to a sort of flashback or memory about the swords, and then back to a panel that's green. And a friend pointed out that they did stuff like that in like, no, never mind, it wasn't the same thing. It was just a flashing light. But like, again, it has to be intentional. And if it is, it's super genius. But for me, as a reader, it's hard to read. It's annoying. But anyway.
Yeah, it's challenging for sure. Oh, go ahead, Alicia. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say that is one of the pages that messed me up super bad. And I was like, I don't know. I'm just going to turn the page and hope I did that right.
Alicia, I'm actually curious about your overall take on the art style, because I think everyone else has had a chance to chime in. What did you make of it? And did you think it did anything unique for the graphic novel medium?
I really loved it. I loved how he used color and tone, which I would say is unique to the graphic novel medium. Even though you can use color and light in movies to suggest tone, I think that it was utilized really well. I think we've covered other graphic novels that haven't utilized that as well as they could have been utilized. Some of the page layout, I agree with everything that Julie and Mike were saying. Like, if it was intentional, it was genius. If it wasn't, then it's just a mess. I think some of the things, like we saw the family tree that I keep referencing back to save my butt for learning names. I think that's something that would be a little more difficult to convey in, say, a film or obviously a novel. So I think there are instances where he conveys it well. I think this was a very good medium choice. If it was a novel, yeah, you could flip back and forth and do the flashbacks, but even something about the colors, how the colors get a little bit warmer when they flash back, and the colors feel nostalgic. When she's in the doctor's office with her father, the color is almost kind of this sickly, it's like a blue color, and you can feel the sadness. And you see one instance on, so book page 113, but digital page 114, and I'll hold it up, and it's in spring, so you see the pink of spring, and you see he's wearing a yellow shirt, and that's one of the moments where he's starting to cheer up a bit and perk up and talk to her, and he's joking with her, and so the yellow shirt's very symbolic of that, I feel. And then in the next one, you see she's wearing the yellow shirt because she's cheered up, and he's wearing kind of this blah colored shirt, and you can see, I mean, not just the shirt, you can see the depression in his face. But it's I think he really utilized the medium very well. You can tell that this is somebody who is experienced with the medium. So I would, based on that, argue that maybe he did do that on purpose with the panels, and it wasn't just by accident.
All right, Jolie, go ahead.
Just while Alicia's pointing that out, just like that sequence with the daughter in the hospital, one that was heartbreaking and funny. It reminded me of the 2 times that I've had to like sit in the hospital or in a hospital waiting room with my dad. But how did everyone else interpret the final page of that exchange or experience? Because I don't know how to. Does that mean they just
So
stopped going? Did he die?
he died because you see the house and you see the oranges rotting on the ground. You see the unkempt lawn. You see all the plants are just sticks. So you know this is the present, and you see they're not there in the waiting room, and it's a different man entirely.
Mm-hmm. So I want to talk about some individual pages. Would you prefer if I sent you images through chat or if I try to screen share?
Oh, screen share, please.
Screen share, okay. I'm taking these off a blog, so keep that in mind. I wanted to do it from Hoopla, but my account is not working for some reason right now. Even librarians, we're prone to internet glitches too. So
there isn't just like a special librarian login for Hoopla?
Yeah, well, I don't have that advantage. I don't have those privileges.
What the hell?
Okay, so are you seeing? Are you seeing this right now, or?
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So this is one of the main sequences that really grabbed my eye on this page. Again, because I'm pulling it from this blog, unfortunately, I don't have a reference for which page it is. However, this one really reminded me of what the graphic novel medium can do. While the word balloons are in a row going left to right, so you can read them sequentially, your eye is also drawn all over the place. It is kind of a composite of all these different moments, and while you can read it sequentially, you can also read them in essentially any order. For me, this was something very unique that I haven't quite seen done enough in comics, where it really is unique to the medium. And one of those instances for me where it can't be replicated in film or any other medium, this for me is pretty exclusive to what can be done in a graphic novel or a comic.
I would almost compare it to that one that we did where it was a series of books inside the box buildings, I think it was called.
Yes.
Yeah, Chris Ware.
Yes, I would almost compare it to that.
Yeah, I love a good plan layout of architecture. Anytime anyone does an overhead, did we read Seconds for this book club by Brian Lee O'Malley?
Yeah, we did.
We did?
I'm pretty sure we did. Oh, yeah, we did. That was like 2 years ago, I want to say.
Oh my God. Hooray. That means we've been friends for at least 2 years. That's crazy. And we've been doing this book club for longer. Yay, guys. Yeah, Seconds, when they did the overheads of the restaurants, I loved it because you see her hustling around and then you see their little family talking about how they want to do the house. And it's you see the part where the pool is, and then the mom's like, does the pool have to, can the pool be here? Instead, where she's sitting and talking. It's awesome. I love it.
Yeah. I have this book right now, and next time we meet in person, I'll bring it so you guys can check it out. It's by Florent Chavouet. I am butchering this name. I'm so sorry. If my dad was here, he'd be screaming at me the correct pronunciation. I'm so sorry. It's in French. It's part of the Louvre series.
Oh.
And he does that a lot so I can see why, because I was heartbroken to find that this book was not translated into English, first of all. And when I picked up a copy, or I ordered the copy, I could see why. Because, okay, so if anyone has been to the Louvre, if you've not, you enter through this glass pyramid, and it's just this huge open atrium. And he did this overhead shot of it, and it's just weird.
Oh, wow.
Everywhere, and it's in different languages. So it's in English, it's in French, it's in Italian, it's in German, it's in Japanese, Chinese. It is a trip. But yeah, like Julie, and he does it throughout the book. There are several moments. There's a wonderful moment where there's a couple lost on an elevator, and she's consulting the map, and it folds out of the book the way a map would fold. And this book is genius. This book is genius.
Please link to that book in the comments.
I will. Yeah, I will. And if you can find a reliable French person, like my dad has been helping me struggle my way through this book, like it's so bad. But
I can read in French. That's why that's why I need this.
Oh, that's good.
But, yeah.
Yeah, it's hilarious. It's hilarious. There's a moment where there's this elderly couple. Sorry, we're going down a rabbit hole for a second. But there's a moment where an elderly couple is looking at some beautiful silver bowls and chalices, and she's like, oh, I could make my pudding in that bowl, you know, like I could make my famous recipe in that bowl. And I'm like, yes, because that's what you do when you're in an art gallery and you see the bowls, and it's like, couldn't you just picture Friday night dinner in that bowl? Tangent done. Thanks for listening to me.
Nothing like preparing pudding in, like, you know, mid to late 16th century metal work. 600 AD? I don't know. Do you know what's really funny too? Is it like, I scoff at people like that. I'm going to stay in this rabbit hole with you. I scoff at people like that in the museum, and I am 100% also that person.
I love you. We're soulmates. I love you.
Right? It's like, oh, look at that statue by Degas. Or no. Did he do statues too?
I can't remember.
All I can remember is the ballerinas. It's like, that would look great on my nightstand. Stupid. Anyway, okay, now we're climbing out.
It's okay. You know, that was a nice little diversion.
And I'll link to the book in the, you can order it through chapters.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Alicia. That's great. So again, that's really cool that you brought that up, because I love when graphic novels do something a little bit unique like that. Mike, I know you've seen a lot of different art styles and a lot of different books. Based on the example I showed you, how did you feel about that?
I mean, I thought it was great. I don't know what else to say about it. Yeah, like, I don't know.
Okay, I was just curious about your thoughts. Because like you said, starting out in this conversation, you were a little bit underwhelmed with the book, and I just wasn't sure maybe at this point if we've piqued your interest a little bit more.
No, definitely. Especially with the experimentation of the storytelling. That is the big hook for me. More so than the actual story itself, I think. We'll have to see. Yeah. But we'll see.
Yeah, you know what? When you come back for the next session, let us know. Maybe you've loved it. Maybe you read it all the way through and you're going to say, I can't believe they made me read this crap. I don't know.
Yeah. We'll see.
Especially if it's the latter, please tell us.
Mm-hmm.
I want to share one more screen with you. Again, hoping I can. Going back to this blog because it's saving my butt tonight. This is another panel sequence, which at first doesn't look too unique. You just basically have two long horizontal panels framing four small panels in between. However, what I noted was that the pillars here actually act as barriers, creating artificial type of meta blocks, slowing down time. So these act as individual panels as you read across the screen. It's a trick I've seen used in other graphic novels, but I think it is done really effectively here. It's subtle, but it manages to break up the flow of time enough where the scene is not rushed, does not take as long as some other sequences in the book. And also it parallels the time frame for these four panels in the center. So I just thought that was really genius, and I've noticed other instances in the book like that. I just wanted to bring that up because I thought that was pretty cool.
I'd also like to point out that the four panels in the center mirror each other.
Okay, let me go back to that so you can talk about that a little bit.
Mm.
Come on, screen share. Okay. Oh, I see what you're saying, how the siblings are looking at opposite places. They're opposing perspectives.
Yeah, it's a good way to like a sort of visually make the book appealing, but also to express the tension. Like, they're not talking, but we clearly know that they're not happy with each other. And then Jose comes in and is like, oh, did I miss something? Of course you did, you stupid jerk. You missed it all.
Clueless Jose.
Yeah. And do you know what? I have to admit that I was going to use this panel again as an example of like how confusing or how challenging it was to read the book, like based on the layout. But like, I take back everything I said before. It is intentional. He's a genius.
All right, cool. I did not intend for it to go that way, but that's great.
You made Jolie a believer.
I made someone a believer tonight. Hallelujah.
I'm really distracted by that cow just above, just hovering around Adam's left eye.
Oh, that's actually brief interlude. 1 second. It is.
But also, I'm kind of hoping that your fun cat makes another appearance.
I won't get into it too much, but it is a catalog of Highland cows. It was a gift from our friends, so yes.
Oh my god. Also,
Highland
I was
cows?
distracted by the owl skeleton.
Yes, I think that is atomically correct as well.
Oh my god.
Not really. No, it's a piece of plastic from like a dollar store. It's not at all.
Yeah, I was going to say, wait, I think I have the same one. Is it Dollarama Halloween 2020?
Pretty sure, yeah.
That's anatomically correct. I was like, oh god, what kind of owl is that? Its head is real big for that body.
Why does its tail feathers need bones? That makes no sense.
I didn't even notice.
How else would you know it's an owl?
One last thing to say
like,
about that. I'm losing my mind. Sorry, I'm losing my mind. I just want to let you know there's also a skeleton spider, which makes no sense.
I've seen that one.
Considering they have exoskeletons, it makes no sense at all. Anyway, that's the last we're talking about Dollarama crap tonight. But going back to the house, I'm actually really glad we had a chance to talk about it because I thought it was a really interesting book to examine. I really love this artist material. There's just something about really everything I've read from Paco Roca, which is about 3 different books at this point. The art style, the sequential nature of it, and the writing for me is very strong. I will say, my opinion right now is that I think this is the best thing I've read of his, which is pretty high praise because I really enjoyed Wrinkles, but I think this is probably the most cohesive and best overall story I've seen from this artist so far. This one got translated into English rather quickly. I think it just took about a year for it to be published in North America and the UK. So I think we're going to be seeing a lot more of his work coming up in the near future. Maybe just any final thoughts that people have on the book?
It makes me happy that there's going to be more from this artist because I'm looking forward to seeing where he goes next. And I'm sorry, I think I liked Wrinkles better than this one. Wrinkles gave me all the feelings. I think I liked it a little better.
There's nothing wrong with that. Anyone else want to share final thoughts?
Just to reiterate that he's a genius. And it took talking it out in this book club to discover or come to that realization. And I cannot wait for more. And I don't think that I read Wrinkles, so I'm going to have to read that one.
Oh, cool.
Or no, I didn't finish it. Yeah, I definitely wasn't there for the book club, but I did not finish it. So I guess I'll have to revisit that one. I'm going to borrow it right now. Okay, mute.
Hey, you and Mike have some more Paco Roca to read. That's great. And Mike, what are your feelings on the book now that we've discussed it?
Definitely better, and it's a good example of where a discussion can open your eyes to other things about the book. So definitely better than my original impression, and I'm looking forward to reading more.
All right, cool. Well, everyone, I want to thank you so much for joining me on this Tuesday night. I know there's so many other things we can go out to do right now, and you chose to stay here with me. Yes.
Legit, you guys have saved my sanity tonight. You have no idea. You saved my sanity.
Well, good. Yeah, it's like if I wasn't here, I would be playing Animal Crossing with my niece. So
I'll send you my code, and I will drop the link for that book in the club so that y'all can
yes,
check it out.
please. Yeah.
Please do.
I just asked another, just while we were talking, I asked another person who is in our Detroit book club to join this one because I think he'd really like it. The level of discussion, at least,
The
is a
Carlos?
little, yeah, yeah, yeah. He's a teacher, so, and I think he'd really enjoy our little group here.
Cool. Well, I want to expand the family, so the more the merrier.
Definitely.
And does anyone want to know what we'll be reading next?
Sure.
Yes, please.
Oh, okay, so I'm going to screen share and show you. This is tying into a new series that is now screening. We're going to be reading Vision Volume 1,
Yeah!
Little Worse Than a Man. Someone's excited.
This will be my third time reading it. Awesome.
It's because I've already read it.